time to reassess the validity of hip-hop as an art form has never been more appropriate. Racial tensions in America is on the rise. Footage of young black American males being gunned down by police officers has swept through the internet. The media has vilified these young men by labeling them as criminals and thugs. The representation of young black Americans has tended to revolve around the negative. And hip-hop, one of the most important contemporary American art forms, is no different. Hip-hop has existed for more than 40 years. Originating in the Bronx, hip-hop was the voice for the young black American male. Frustrated by inequality and poverty, many young men were unemployed and music offered them the opportunity to share their frustrations with an audience. The music was a reflection of the community, and artists like Biggie and Tupac emerged.
The origins of rap are actually very interesting because many academics have studied this, and there's one theory which has been given a lot of credence recently, is that Scottish slave owners actually took it to the Caribbean. Because in Scotland, going back to the medieval period, there was a tradition of flyting, and flyting were sort of ritualistic verbal battles which involved a lot of swearing.
Hip-hop often is vilified in the media. I think the most common ways that we see hip-hop attacked are for its perceived biases toward women, toward gays, its explicit language, and both of these things, both the language of specific offense to individual groups and the garden variety curse words, are worth thinking about a bit. Why does rap have explicit content? I think that's a more important question even before you engage in the nature of the content itself. Now, to understand explicit content in hip-hop, you have to understand that this was a necessary language emerging in the 70s out of extreme poverty. It was a language of young people who had often been silenced or ignored. And so when you see curse words, for instance, let's just start there. Part of cursing is to gain attention, is to command the ear, is to say, listen to me, I have something to say. So the hook of explicit language and even explicit content is in part to demand attention and to say that speaking in polite terms hasn't worked up to this point.
Hip-hop has been blamed for promoting negative ideologies. For example, drug taking, homophobia, negative representation of women, and misogyny.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always been an element of violence associated around it, but I think a lot of that's contributed to the grit and the soul that's in some of the lyrics that sort of shines through. I mean, I think without having led some of the lives that some of them have led, it wouldn't be as poetic and as so interesting and captivating as it is, basically.
Hip-hop is a vessel. It's a vessel into which you can put any kind of content you want. Progressive, positive, politically minded, or destructive, hateful, all of the things that it can be. We've seen with the Arab Spring, with hip-hop as one of the things of the era, that the potential for hip-hop to be revolutionary, to be transformative is still there. No matter how many ignorant verses come out of Young Thug or whomever artist you want to choose.
Hip-hop has been singled out as sexist, whereas other genres may have been overlooked.
Look at every other musical culture that we have. The same thing holds for rock and roll. The same thing holds for punk music. Punk was about often just, let's see what we can fuck up and destroy. That is an end to itself, an aesthetic end. It wasn't always about profundity. Sometimes the Beatles just wanted to hold your hand. They weren't talking about Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. You know, there's a place for all of that in the music, and if we deny it of hip-hop, and I'm speaking not just of hip-hop's critics, but those of us within the culture, if we deny hip-hop's capacity to embody both the frivolous and the profound, then we cut it short of what it really can be. And the fact that it can be all of those things all at once, and it would be a better reflection of us.
Aggressive expression through music should be considered as a positive. Otherwise, people will find other ways in expressing anger.
The streets were safe when I was a kid, man. And then Like literally, I remember it changing and it not being safe no more.
And it changed over time. You think
Yeah,
it's gotten worse over the years?
yeah, definitely has got worse. I mean, like.
But why? Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of it is to do with like a media influence. You only got to look at what's going on in Baltimore at the moment, and look at what the media focuses on in that, and then what they're not talking about. Like for example, the gangs and stuff that are actually standing up and stopping the rioters and stuff like that. That ain't put on the news. You know what I mean? You'll see it on social media, networking sites and stuff, but the news don't want to show that because it's not negative.
I want to tell the people of the city right now, of Baltimore City, that the image that they're trying to portray of the gangs in Baltimore, the BGF, the Bloods, the Crips, we did not make that truce to harm cops. We did not come together against the cops. We're not about to allow y'all to paint this picture of us.
Obviously, it's always changing. There's a few artists that I think still represent the way that hip hop used to be, and I think there's a new wave of some of the artists trying to collaborate with different sort of genres of music to make it more appealing to a bigger audience of people. That I think's making it a bit cliche sometimes.
You've got like people like Tupac, Nas, newer artists like J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar, even Drake. You know what I mean? I think them artists, they can be linked to the poetic world and that.
I do think rap is an art form. I think it's a very interesting merging of music and verbal art.
Hip-hop is connected to a legacy of language that stretches not just back to the oral tradition in Black America, but more broadly to the tradition of poetry in English. And so you can draw almost a straight line between Beowulf and Biggie, between Beowulf and Kendrick Lamar. And what unites them most fundamentally is the matter of rhythm. When we were editing the anthology of rap, one of the things that struck my colleague Andrew and me was just the extent to which the 4-beat line, that is 4 stressed syllables per line, was consistent through most of rap. And you can open to almost any page. I mean, open to LL Cool J, Rock the Bells.
I excel, they all fail. Gonna cocktail, double L, must rock the bell.
And if you go back and look at the rhythmic stress of that, LL Cool J is hard as hell, 4 beats. Battle anybody, I don't care who you tell, 4 beats. I excel, they all fail, I'm gonna crack shells. I mean, it just is there, the rhythm, the pattern of stress. And so the through line, through the matter of rhythm, and that 4-beat line, is so fundamental to the poetic practice of rap.
I just want to be heard, really, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, if people say I'm a poet, that's only a compliment, man. But yeah, I don't know. I just see myself as a writer, man.
People have expressed themselves through poetry for hundreds of years. Not all hip-hop is about violence and sexual aggression. There are other forms of hip-hop where artists express themselves in an intelligent and positive way. If poetry is the expression of feelings and ideas, using style and rhythm, then surely hip-hop is poetry.